Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha. Okay, so we shall start with our petition before we begin the lecture and the Parsha. So we'll begin with Psalm 4. Hear me when I call, O Elohim of my righteousness. You have enlarged me when I was in distress. Have loving kindness upon me and hear my prayer. O you sons of men, how long will you turn my respect into shame? How long will you love worthlessness and run after what is deceptive? Selah. But know that Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh has separated him that is merciful for himself. Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh will hear when I call to him. Stand in awe and do no sin. Meditate when you lie on your bed and hold your shalom. Selah. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh. There be many that say, who will show us any good? Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh, lift up the light of your countenance upon us. You have put gladness in my heart more than in the time that their grain and their wine increased. I will both lay down in shalom and sleep, for you, Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh, only make me dwell in safety. Okay, we shall go to Psalm 119, and today we shall read the portion of pay from 129 to 136. Your testimonies are wonderful, therefore does my soul keep them. The entrance of your words gives light, it gives understanding to the simple. I opened my mouth and panted, for I longed for your commandments. Look upon me and be merciful to me, as you used to do to those that love your name. Order my steps in your word, and let not any iniquity have dominion over me. Rescue me from the oppression of man, so will I keep your precepts. Make your face to shine upon your servant, and teach me your statutes. Rivers of water run down my eyes, because they keep not your Torah. Father, we thank you, we bless your holy name, and we come here today that our goings out and our comings in this past week, that you have carried us safely from our homes to wherever we went outside, and when we returned home, you brought us back safely from all our travels. We give thanks to you. We give thanks for the provisions of food that you made during the week. We give you thanks for the shelter that you provided for us. We give you thanks for the great health that you have given us. And we give you thanks for the great opportunity that you lay before us. I thank you, Father, that you are there for us whenever we need you, that your words are true, that your covenants are everlasting, that you made with our ancestors. We thank you and bless your holy name. Amen. Amen. Okay, so our Parsha today is on Shlech lecha. This is chapter 13 of the book of Numbers, and verse 1 is where it starts. Shlech lecha means send for yourself. Okay, so we will look at this both. We will look at portions of this perhaps literally and also perhaps mystically as well. But before we do, let me give you a brief on America, the goings on of America, and perhaps around us what's going on. So in the last week that I spoke to you, if you remember, I spoke about the interest rate cycles that has gone on in this country, and that whenever America puts interest rates up, whenever the Federal Reserve here puts interest rates up, everybody else follows suit. So I think just recently, we're talking about maybe 1 to 2 days ago, the Bank of Canada raised their interest rates. I believe it's about 0.5%. And we had similar suit followed by a couple of other governors in a couple of other countries. We recently saw that in Turkey, Recep Erdogan, he became the head again. He won the elections, and now he's back to power. And for different reasons, perhaps high interest, the Turkish lira, their currency, went down a lot. Also, if you notice that on the Bitcoin front, cryptocurrencies, a lawsuit was brought against Binance by the SEC for some improper actions done by their owner, who is known as CZ or CZ for those of you in UK, and that caused Bitcoin to have a bit of a fall. Ethereum followed suit as well. So I think it took a little knock, and now it's doing a little recovery. Coinbase, also there was some improper actions there, and there may be some kind of government lawsuit or something against them coming up. Their coin or their company lost also a lot of value as a result of that. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it whether it was insider trading, because they had been accused of insider trading before and they were fined, and this time maybe it's that or something else. Well, anyhow, they're also facing the crunch. So apart from the fact that some of the crypto exchanges had crashed out in recent time, banks have, as a result of banks crashing out, we had about 3 or 4 banks that crashed out. As a result of those banks crashing out, new rules have come into place, at least in America, where they now charge you for instant withdrawals, whereas before they didn't. And if you time delay your withdrawals, then they don't charge you. So that's kind of changes coming into the banks, and certain other changes related to charges, because banks they always pass their cost on to the customer mostly as they work the system. And now in June, this month in June, the Federal Reserve has kind of indicated that they intend to put a pause on the interest rates. So that kind of led the dollar to a fall, somewhat of a correction, and it caused gold to rise up somewhat, because they kind of run opposite to each other. If dollar goes down, gold goes up. If gold goes up, dollar goes down. So that's how that market functions, and we shall see when the next meeting comes if the Federal Reserve is going to pause or continue to raise rates to a 0.25%. That's the kind of news over here in America. Other than that, I think most of the places is business as usual. Apart from the war that is going on in Ukraine and Russia, as you know, that's like business as usual. America's willing to sell them weapons. Europe is willing to sell them weapons, and they keep giving them money, free money, in billions of dollars, selling weapons. Of course, and that's kind of good business on these countries' parts who are selling them these weapons. That means they have no intention of this war to stop. They want the war to continue as long as possible, so they can continue their sales and they can continue to put Ukraine into debt, which I guess when this war does stop and things normalize, Ukraine will be in a lot of debt, and Ukraine will probably be paying this debt for the next 100 years, that's for sure. So that's that on that front. Now, if we come back to the Parsha Shlech lecha, send for yourself, here we are told in verse 1, and Yahoshua spoke to Moshe, saying, send you men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give to the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their Ahavoth shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moshe, by the commandment of Yahoshua, sent them from the wilderness of Paran, all those men who were the heads of children of Israel. Okay, so in essence, what happened over here, there was a head of a tribe picked, or at least a man picked from each tribe. There were 12 tribes, 12 men were picked, and they were these people were now on the outskirts of the land of Israel in ancient times. A man was picked to go recce the land, which is common practice in military, before they could go to war and possess the land. So we are told that these people were in the land, wrecking the land, and going and having a look at what's going on, who lives there, what kind of conditions we have, what kind of fruits and vegetables and other products are growing, and they do all of that. And they kind of, we are told in this Parsha, if we look at it, I think it says that it says that they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. So they were searching the land for 40 days. Now, it's very important, the number 40. The number 40 is so important that, as you know, some religious systems of the world, for example, Catholics, they do their 40-day fast. In the Muslim world, they also do two things on 40. One, they do a 40-day of, I should say, like a prayer vigil. They do a 40-day prayer vigil, which they choose to do so or not to do so. It's not an obligation. They also do, when somebody dies, they do the funeral rites. They conclude the funeral rites after 40 days. So again, different cultures, different systems, religious systems, different things. And this is kind of taken, technically looks like it's taken from the Bible, because the 40 number seems to be kind of important. Now we note that over here, when out of the 12, 10 came back, and they were very negative. They brought back a negative report of the land. Now, the two that went, they did not bring a negative report. So 2 were positive, 10 were negative. And we notice also that as a result of the negative report, one of the reports was that the Malaki, they dwell in the land of the south, and the Hitti and the Yahusi and the Amori dwell in the mountains, and the Canaani dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And it says that Caleb silenced the people before Moshe and said, "Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it." But the men that went up with him said, "We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." So they, the ones who went, they saw the Nephil, or the ones that were, tall men, sons of Anak, and they believed they came from the Nephilim, and they were saying that we were in our sight, to them and to our sight we were like grasshoppers, because those people were tall. And we're told in chapter 14 that all the congregation, all the people of Israel wept. They cried, and they wept that night. They were crying and weeping and whining all night. And it says that the children of Israel murmured against Moshe and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, "Would Elohim that we had died in the land of Mitzrayim, or would Elohim we had died in the wilderness." Basically, they're accusing God that you brought us out. It was better that we died in Egypt than we die out here in the desert. And has God brought us out to kill us by the sword? In other words, has God brought us out to fight a war that we die by these people's hands, and our children and our wives should be prey for these people? He says, "Well, is it not better that we return to Egypt?" And they said one to another, "Let us make a captain. Let us choose a man." In other words, now they rejected Moses and they rejected Aaron, and now they wanted to establish a new leader that would take them back to Egypt. That was kind of the height of disbelief, fear, and of course the disbelief of God's word and the fear that the enemy had put in their hearts, it was the height of that. It was absolutely shameful that they behaved like that. Now, notice that this 14 number and the people that murmured were the first generation of the people. So God punished them for 40 years, making them circle the land, but not letting them enter the land until they all died. Except, of course, the second generation, the children, they now grew up, and they were the ones who possessed the land alongside the two spies that were positive. So, it's very important that we learn some lessons from this. And by the way, nothing has changed. Everything is still status quo. In other words, don't think for a second that if you live in America or Europe or in the East somewhere, that those that call themselves the House of Israel, they have changed. No, they have not changed. They still have the same attitude. They still have the same issues, and they still whine and complain. There's very few positive people amongst our people that you can say are positive in the covenant, whereas the majority of the people are still shamefully, same negativity plagues them, same whining and same complaining plagues them. And then they go running off to different people, spiritualists, who else? I mean, people who do tarot cards, people who do psychics, these are the kind of people they run to for assistance. Which shows you what exactly? It shows you that they have no trust in God, they have no trust in the covenant, and they are completely a lost people. So, do you think that people like that can enter the land? Hardly likely, isn't it? So, anyway, the question is this, that what are we basically being taught over here? What we are taught in this particular chapter of the Torah, or chapters, is this, that the time you lose trust in God, you already lost the plot. You're no longer in the plot. You lost the plot. You're now wandering, and you created your own wilderness, your own desert environment. So, if you notice over here, when I was reading the Psalm, I read this line, and it was so pertinent. It said, I mean, this is from Psalm 119 and verse 129. Your testimonies are wonderful, therefore does my soul keep them. Now, do these people keep the testimonies? Do they guard the testimonies? The answer is no. It says, the entrance of your words gives light, it gives understanding to the simple. Well, they already rejected the Torah, they already rejected God's covenant, because they are wandering in the wilderness, and they don't believe in God any longer, they don't believe in His miracles. So, are they still in the covenant? Well, according to God, yes, from His end they are, but from their end they're not. And then it says that, order my steps in your word, and let not any iniquity have dominion over me. Well, they are not ordering their steps by the Torah or the commandments or the statutes, and they have allowed iniquity, means negative thoughts, negative environment, to overtake and have power over them. So the moment we allow negativities in our mind, when we go to do things and we allow negative thoughts, negative emotions, even negative people, when we allow them room and we dwell on them, then we already have lost the plot. That means that you allowed sin. Sin in this instance is not some kind of avera that you have done. Sin here is basically that you perhaps have a desire. Now in this case, the people's desire was to get into the land of promise, land of milk and honey. But they allowed their desire to be watered down to the point that they believed it's not possible, it's not going to happen, oh, we're going to die, oh, this, oh, that, and so they allowed iniquity. Iniquity in this case is negativity. They allowed negativity to overpower their mind. Remember, they were crying for all night. What is crying like that going to do to you? Crying like that all night and complaining and then cursing Moses, cursing Aaron for bringing them out from Egypt is going to do what? Is going to make them dwell in negativity, deep negativity. And it's going to absolutely make sure the seal is set that they are not going to enter the land. That's for sure. And that's the result we saw. They definitely did not enter the land. That generation that did that, I mean, the children were small, they were young. They didn't know why the hell their parents are crying. They're like, what the hell is going on with these so-called elders? You know, they've been crying all night. They're not worried about my food, my clothing, my care, but all they do is cry. So they confuse their children, the hell out of their children, and then they cry all night like little babies. So that means they sealed their fate. Now the children, you know, they were young, they didn't know what these people are up to. They just saw their behavior and just, you know, ignored them. And they carried on, and God looked upon the children and said, you know what, it's not the children's fault. They've done nothing wrong. But these adults, oh yeah, they're going to get punished. They're not entering the land. They've already sealed their fate. And their fate was sealed from the moment they started to accuse Moses and Aaron. Their fate was sealed. They were not going to enter the land. Now, how does that translate into 2023, month of June? The way this translates is from any time you do something and you allow negativity to plague your mind, then that means your fate is now set. Your fate is set, and it doesn't matter what you tell other people, it doesn't matter what you say, but you know, you speak with the two, you know, you speak out of the two tongues. It's like a snake. It has two tongues. So you speak out of two tongues. One side you say, yeah, no, it's okay. And the other side you say, no, I don't believe this, and I don't do this, and it's all bad, and it's no good, and I shouldn't have been doing this, I shouldn't have done that. You know, so you are not in an ordered state. On the one side of your mouth, you might say, okay, all right. On the other side, you say, no, it's not okay, and it's not all right. And so you complain, you whine, you accuse the other people of doing the wrong, and whilst you're doing that, you're sealing your fate. Remember, it's all in the mind. The whole thing is in the mind. When you seal your fate with negativities like that, then your belief, you see, if you believe, let me put it very straight, if you believe you're going to die, no one can save you. Doesn't matter how many prayers they do. When you believe you're going to die, then yes, you are going to die, because you have already sealed your fate. I can tell you this as a testimony. Somebody that I know here in America, their, I believe, sister was very ill. And, you know, as people do, they go to the doctor, and the doctor tells them that, hey, you know, you have a short time to live, and perhaps, you know, if you take care of yourself, maybe you can prolong it, and if you don't take care of yourself, maybe, you know, you'll die. And so that person, as soon as the doctor said this, that person believed that they were going to die. So she was busy phoning her sisters, brothers, and whatnot that she's going to die, and she's telling everybody that, hey, I have decided to die. In other words, maybe she might have lived another 5 years, maybe another 10 years. But no, she'd already decided, because the doctor said so, she already decided that she wants to die. Now, no matter what her sisters told her, no matter what somebody else told her, not to think or not to dwell on death, she simply said no, she is going to die. Okay? So what happened, she was alive at the time that somebody told me this, and I told them, I said, you know what, prepare for her death, because she has sealed her fate already. Doesn't matter what you tell her now, doesn't matter if you say to her, hey, take this medicine, take this supplement, you know, try this one, it's going to prolong your life. She won't give two damns about it. I said, this woman is poised to die. She believes it, she accepted it. Now her belief system is that she's going to die soon, and I said, expect her death. She sealed her fate. You can pray all you like, it's not going to help her one little bit. And you know what? Less than 2 weeks later, this woman was dead. Yes, because she sealed her fate by her own mouth. You see, the power of the tongue. We come back to the power of the tongue. And what is the Parsha? The Parsha is Shlech lecha, send for yourself. Send what exactly? Send your desire, send your thoughts, send your vision. Well, if your vision is negative, if your desire is negative, if that's what you're sending out, what do you think is going to come back? Pray tell. And so what we notice in this world today is that when people who sow, we call this sowing and reaping. When you sow poison, you see, your mind is fertile ground. If you sow poison in your mind, then poison, let's call it poison ivy. If you sow poison ivy, then poison ivy will grow. If you sow roses, then roses will grow. Whatever you sow in your mind, it will be what takes fruit. The fruit will be what you grow. You know, in the New Testament, Jesus said to his disciples when he was speaking to them, he said, you shall know the tree by its fruits. So, what does that mean, know them by their fruits? He wasn't just talking about bad people. He was talking a general by everybody. He was basically saying that when you want to look at somebody's outcome, when you observe people, look at what they are saying, look at what they are doing, because whatever they are saying and doing is what they're going to produce. If a person, all he does all day long is speak negativity or think negativity or run negativity in his internal conversations, then he's going to produce negative result. That is the fruit. If a person, on the other hand, speaks positivity, thinks positivity, and affirms positivity, then he's going to bring positivity out of his mind. So that is their fruit. So the two people's fruits, one for negative, one for positive, is going to vary based on how these people think. Now, you know, crying is a very powerful emotion. When we are told in chapter 14 that all the congregation lifted up their voice, they actually lifted up their voice and cried like little babies. That night, all that night they were crying, like, my goodness, what kind of faith is that? They were brought out by the God of miracles and by prophets. But what do? They come out, they are shown further miracles, and what do? They cry and they cry and they cry and they curse Moses and they curse Aaron and they speak negative, evil words against them. Well, guess what? You sealed your punishment. As they say in the UK, in England, they say, you sealed your punishment, mate. You are going down. There's no place for you up, but you're going down. So they were going to go down now. There's nothing going to save them. Nobody's prayer is going to save them. Because at that point, God was so angry with them. God said, I will smite them with the pestilence. I will smite them with diseases and disinherit them, and will make of you a greater nation and mightier than they. So, God is having a word with Moses and saying, Moses, listen, these people are waste of time. They have wasted my time. They have, taken things from me for granted. I've given them covenants. I've spoken to them, and yet look at the behavior. And God said, I can create another nation. I can create another nation because these people continue to provoke me. How long will it be before they believe me for all the signs which I have performed among them? So, very, very angry. God's very angry at this point. And God's saying that He will smite them with pestilence. What does this actually mean in today's world? Because we are technically not in physical Egypt as we were back then, or in physical wilderness. What does it mean? It means this: pestilence. When we continue to dwell on negative thought, negative inner conversations, that means that we are going to inherit dis-ease. Our bodies will inherit dis-ease. It actually will go down to your cellular level. We have trillions of cells that make us who we are. And when disease settles in the cells, doesn't matter which pills you take, because you'll be constantly taking pills from the doctor, and doctor wants to make sure that you continue to take those pills, because that's how they make money. That's how the big pharma makes money. So until you deal with the root cause, your dis-ease will not go away. So in order to deal with the root cause, what is the root cause? Well, the root cause is not because you didn't eat the right food, or you had too much soda, pop, Coca-Cola. No, that is not that will just be an excuse. But the real issue is that your negative attitude has brought this dis-ease into your body. So the very first premise is to remove the dis-ease. Diseases like blood pressure, diseases like heart attack, diseases like kidney stones, all this. What is kidney stones, gallbladder stones? Is calcification of the organs in your body. Basically, you have more deposits of calcium in your organs than you should, and those are what causes this dis-ease of stones in your kidneys or in your gallbladders. So how do you decalcify? Well, you're going to laugh at this, but let me give you a little remedy. This is going to be a life changer for you. You could go to a place like Amazon, maybe locally as well, some health store. They sell you what's called a grounding mat. You can buy grounding mats. You can also buy grounding sheets that you can lay on your bed at night. And for those of you who think that they can't afford it, they can actually wake up in the morning and go outside and walk bare feet on the grass. You need to ground yourself, basically. And if you don't have time to walk on the grass, you buy a little mat, a grounding mat, $20, $30 one, and you put it where you sit, under your desk, and you put your bare feet on it, and you ground yourself. When you ground yourself, all your excess energy every day goes into the grounding. It goes into the ground, into the mat, and it gets discharged. We are electrical beings. We have electrical charge. So therefore, when you do that, you remove all the excess electrical charge, which can cause you blood pressure, which can cause you diabetes, which can cause you all sorts of dis-eases out there. So when you have a problem, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what have I been doing for the last decade or the last 5 years? And then you will do yourself a favor to get a grounding mat and put your feet on it and ground yourself every day. That's number one, to remove disease. Number two, if you have time, I definitely encourage you to go walk on the grass, and that will also help you, because the earth has particles. The ground on the earth has particles, has electrons, and not only do you ground over there, your excess energy from your body that's causing you high blood pressure and other things that will go into the ground, but it will also help you revitalize your body. So very, very important. This is why maybe last year or year before that, I gave you the grounding meditation. The whole idea of the grounding meditation was exactly that, to ground yourself, to ground your thoughts, so that it will help you in the longer term. It immensely helps in disease. Disease, is usually a cause of high pent-up electrical voltages that affect our bodies in different ways. So grounding is one way to resolve many, many issues. Calcification of your body, well, since I'm not giving you all the remedies over here for calcification, but I've just given you the cause, and there is the there are ways to remove the cause, but I think it's enough to tell you that if you have more calcification in your body, like in your kidneys, in your gallbladders, in your bladders, then they will cause stones. So that means you have to decalcify. And there are methods to decalcify naturally without having to take a ton of medicines from the doctors. Okay, so I think that you kind of get the gist where we are going with all this and what is the meaning of all that. And so I would encourage you always to think positive. I would encourage you, even if things are going negative, to always believe in positivity, always have faith for good results, always. Even if things don't seem right in the 3D, continue to believe for good. Do not dwell on the negative. By dwelling on the negative, you only make it happen. By dwelling on the positive and by believing that only good can come, that God can deliver only good, and God does not deliver evil to you, He will only deliver good to you if you believe. And if you can hold that belief, my goodness, you should have absolutely no problem with your life. So with that, I'd say have a wonderful Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom to you.